Welcome, everyone, to the November 28th City Council meeting. The first thing I'd like to say is we did the consent calendar already, so if there's any consent calendar item that you are here for, we already passed the consent calendar. So the first thing up is the forum. And the public forum is an opportunity for individuals to speak to the City Council on any city-related issues, except for those items which have already been heard by a hearings official or are on tonight's agenda as a public hearing. Each person will have 3 minutes to speak. When you come to the podium, please give your name, city of residence, and for Eugene residents, your ward if known. The timer and lights indicate the time you have to speak. The red light indicates the end of 3 minutes. And we have 20 people signed up. First up is Coriel Rede White. And next after him is Dave Lemon. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Piercy. Thank you, Council, for having me tonight. I'm Coriel Rede White, Ward 1, here on behalf of our Children's Trust. I just want to give a quick update to you all about the federal case that you know is venued right here in Eugene. A quick reminder, the federal case involves 21 plaintiffs, youth plaintiffs, that have sued the U.S. government, claiming that U.S. government actions has led to climate change and threatened their constitutional rights to life, liberty, and property. I'm not going to bury the lead here. Judge Aiken found that there does, in fact, exist a fundamental right to a stable climate system, becoming the first ever court in this country to find such a constitutional right. And I'm just going to quickly read a couple of the passages I think are meaningful. In determining whether a right is fundamental, courts must exercise reasoned judgment, keeping in mind that history and tradition guide and discipline this inquiry, but do not set its outer boundaries. The genius of the Constitution is that its text allows future generations to protect the right of all persons to enjoy liberty as we learn its meaning. I'm skipping around a bit, but in Obergefell, the court's recognition of a fundamental right to marry was grounded in understanding of marriage as a right underlying and supporting other vital liberties. And here's her quote. Exercising my reasoned judgment, I have no doubt that the right to a climate system capable of sustaining human life is fundamental to a free and ordered society. Just as marriage is the foundation of the family, a stable climate system is quite literally the foundation of, quote, society without which there would be neither civilization nor progress. The other big issue at issue in these motions to dismiss, where the government and the defendant interveners, big oil associations, tried to dismiss plaintiffs' claims, was the role of the public trust doctrine and whether or not the federal government owed a duty to all Americans to preserve natural resources from one generation to the next. Aiken did find, in fact, that the federal government did owe that duty and that these essential public resources, which are being harmed by climate change, need to be protected by the government. But I think the history that she shared in her decision is particularly worth noting. In its broadest sense, the term public trust refers to the fundamental understanding that no government can legitimately abdicate its core sovereign powers. The power of governing is a trust committed by the people to the government, no part of which can be granted away. Application of the public trust doctrine to natural resources predates the United States of America. Its roots are in the Institutes of Justinian, part of the Roman law that is the foundation of modern civil law systems.
Next up is Dave Lemon, followed by John Thielking.
Good evening, Dave Lemon. I live in Whitaker, and Claire Surratt's my councilwoman. Recently on the streets of the Whitaker, a fatal shooting and rape have occurred. From the Jefferson Skateboard Park to the restaurants and bars on Blair Street and beyond, this community is under siege. We've got drug problems, homeless problems, prostitution, bicycle chop shops, tweakers, and gangbangers. Our parks, in particular Scobert, have been hijacked by drug dealers and the homeless. What's been the city's response? From my perspective, the council and city manager need to get their heads in the game. The one department in the city that is trying to do its best to cope with the many problems is the Eugene Police Department. And we in the Whitaker are very supportive of their efforts. On several occasions, the officers and detectives have made time in their busy schedules to attend our Whitaker community meetings. And my takeaway from that is that they are overworked, understaffed, and just stretched too thin. There seems to be a disconnect here between the city manager, council, and police department. If I'm not mistaken, any hiring or staffing decisions go through the city manager, and so far there's been a deafening silence. So where's the money being spent? And where is the focus? One glaring example is the new city hall. This is your new Taj Mahal. Spending the taxpayers' money the way you have on this project is a disgrace. Where's the money to help our police department, parks department, and other community programs? So I challenge the city mayor and city council, and in particular the city manager, to step up. Spend the money where it really counts. The public safety should be paramount. Hire more officers, give the Eugene Police Department a more manageable workload, and in the end make the Whitaker and other Eugene communities a safer and more enjoyable place to live. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, John Thielking, followed by Wayne Martin.
Hello, my name is John Thielking. I live in Ward 1. My comments tonight have to do with homelessness and the seller's permit that's proposed for all sellers downtown in the November 9th work session. I guess I live in the Whitaker, that's over by Blair. I haven't really noticed that much of a problem with homeless people, although I don't hang out in the parks, so I don't know, maybe I'm missing something. But my concern about the homeless issue is I don't necessarily want to see a repeat of what happened last year, where the city proposed a, a 3-day-a-week camp managed by St. Vinny's. I worked out the cost-benefit analysis for that, and if you housed all 1,500 homeless people 7 days a week, 24/7, 365 would cost roughly $18 million a year to do that using that model. But if you simply provided people $600 a month rental assistance for 4 people to stay in their existing apartment before they became homeless, that would cost $6 million a year and would help 3,500 people a month. So basically, and then also the issue of the seller's permits, I sent a letter to all of you by email about the seller's permit proposal and the proposal to remove the 5-day grace period for dog licenses. And I think we should not give the city police department any more tools than they already have to harass homeless people downtown. My proposal was to have the First Amendment and the 14th Amendment work in tandem with both the seller permit and the dog licenses. So you have a 5-day grace period for both. It eliminates prior restraint for First Amendment activity and provides a 14th Amendment protection for people with dogs so that there's less harassment of people downtown. Thank you.
Thank you. Wayne Martin is next, followed by the Raging Grannies.
Good evening and good to be back here at a meeting. It's been a while. I'm only one of many citizens in Eugene who cares deeply about the care and the safety and the value of people in this country who have no home to live in, and in some cases not even a tent. On a national scale, 35% of homeless persons have a diagnosis of some mental illness. 30% have a physical illness in the form of addiction to alcohol or hard drugs. These illnesses are largely untreated by this county, and I'm not putting the blame on the county. I am, in fact, very encouraged. On November 7th, my letter to the Register Guard was published, and in that letter, I urged readers to call on their councilmen or councilwomen to lead an effort to have an authorized rest stop located in each ward in their wards. At the same time, some city staff were preparing to provide a similar ask and created an excellent video to assist them in making their case. The council work session showed some movement toward the goal of locating a rest stop in each ward. A thank you here should go out to Councilman Zelenka for coming well prepared with 3 motions for that work session. I now call on everyone here and those watching the meeting on community TV to email or telephone your councilman or councilwoman. Urge them to put together a task force to work with them. Make a timeline together with this task force, say 3 to 4 months, to see to this effort. Ask them to keep you in the loop. Ask to keep meeting until it's doable, because it is. The day before Thanksgiving, I sent an email to Councilman Poling, my councilman. The day before Thanksgiving, he actually answered it on Thanksgiving Day. That deserves a mention. Thank you for that. And I think if you've done that, others of you will do that kind of thing, and you will respond to those in your community and even engage them as a leader to make this rest stop goal happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is the Raging Grannies, followed by Patty Hine.
My name is Peppy Berriger, and I'm here to say that we grannies are outraged that oil trains are allowed to move through our town and endanger our lives. Oil trains are an example of how corporate greed puts profit ahead of the health and safety of whole communities. How many seas will the oil rigs destroy? How many oceans must die? How much destruction and damage and loss can our poor planet survive? How many spills must it take till we say that too many life forms have died? Now is the time to make our voices roar. We all must proclaim it, drill no more. Feds on the hills have spent years gutting rules, working as industry shills. Big oil has not been required to comply or guarantee against spills. Profits have won over safety and health. Fools chanted, drill, baby, drill. Now is the time to make our voices roar. We loudly proclaim it, drill no more. How many horrible oil spills before? Drill, baby, drill is reversed. How many species will be made extinct before we care for the earth? When will we switch to renewable power? What is our planet's life worth? Now is the time to make our voices roar. We loudly proclaim it, drill no more!
Thank you. Nope. Yeah, thank you. Love the costume. Patty Hines up next, followed by Joshua Snyder.
Hard act to follow.
Yep.
Good evening, Mayor Piercy, councilors, city staff. My name is Patty Hine. I live in the county, and I call Eugene my home. I am here tonight on behalf of 350 Eugene, Beyond Toxics, and the Many Rivers chapter of the Oregon Sierra Club. We bring to you for your consideration a resolution opposing crude oil by rail. In the packets that you have before you, those envelopes, you will find a resolution summary, the full resolution, a background explanatory memo, and a crude by rail information sheet. Tonight, members of our coalition will read the resolution in its entirety and provide a bit of background. We submit this testimony with these documents for inclusion in future Eugene City Council work sessions, follow-up, and adoption. Our coalition is proud to work with the city and our community leaders to bring about the quickest possible transition away from a fossil fuel-based economy and lifestyle to a healthier, safer, cleaner, more sustainable, just and broadly inclusive prosperity for everyone. This resolution is solidly in keeping with our binding climate recovery ordinance passed in April 2014, as well as state, national, and international goals to reduce greenhouse gas pollution, to remain below 1.5 degrees Celsius average global temperature, to avert the worst effects of climate change, including sea level rise, ocean acidification, drought, loss of biodiversity, and extreme weather, to name a few. We live in extraordinary times. While spared so far from many of the negative effects of climate change here in the global north, we see the destabilizing results of crop failures, floods, and storms. Many of the things we have come to expect and taken for granted are coming unhinged. We live in these times. You govern in these times. In response, people and their governments must change our business as usual approach to solving our problems. We believe Eugene is a leader. We are proud in this community, and we know this change will originate locally. Thank you for being a leader and for your attention in this matter regarding crude by rail. We would appreciate your support for this symbolic resolution, joining dozens of communities in our region. Thank you.
Thank you. Joshua Snyder is up next, followed by Joel Iboa.
Good evening. My name is Joshua Schneider, and I live in Ward 1. No crude oil by rail resolution. Resolution opposing transport by rail of hazardous fossil fuel materials, including crude oil specifically through Eugene. Whereas the people of the city of Eugene realize that the continued burning of fossil fuels is causing planetary warming and that such climate change is a threat to all life on this planet. Whereas the people of the city of Eugene recognize that we all have a duty to stop the warming of the planet and to safeguard the health and safety of all Eugene residents. Whereas the people of the city of Eugene have the right to public safety, health, and welfare, which includes the right to be free from the danger of explosion or fire from railway cars carrying crude oil. And whereas trains carrying crude oil from the Bakken Shale Formation in Canada and North Dakota and the Canadian tar sands in Alberta, Canada, to refinery and export facilities in California currently pass through downtown Eugene along the Union Pacific rail tracks. Whereas these tracks also run through neighboring communities directly by the University of Oregon along waterways, including the Willamette River, through densely populated areas, sensitive environments, and productive agricultural land. And whereas these types of crude oil are highly volatile and flammable, more so than other crude oils, and are known to contain elevated concentrations of benzene, a potent carcinogen. And whereas shipments of crude oil by rail in the U.S. increased over 50-fold from 9,500 carloads in 2008 to almost 500,000 in 2014. And whereas transport of crude oil by rail through Oregon and Eugene can be expected to continue and possibly increase further because of future oil and gas company decisions and market forces. And whereas the enormous increase in transport of crude oil by rail has been accompanied by a similar rise in spills and accidents. reaching a high of 141 in 2014. More crude oil was spilled in U.S. rail accidents in 2013, more than 1.5 million gallons, than in the preceding 4 decades. And whereas in July 2013, 72 tanker cars loaded with 2 million gallons of flammable crude oil derailed in Lac-Mégantic, Quebec, causing explosions that killed 47 people and caused $1 billion in damage. Thank you.
Joe Boa is next, followed by Joan Cleben.
Good afternoon. My name is Jolie Boa. I live in Ward 7 in the Whitaker. I'm glad to be here in front of you today representing Beyond Toxics and in partnership with 350.org and Oregon Sierra Club. Get ready for more whereases. Whereas in June 2016, 4 trains carrying crude oil derailed coming through the Columbia River Gorge in the town of Mosier, Oregon, and caught fire, prompting evacuation of residents, schools, and businesses, and damage to the local water supply, sewer system, and soil. And whereas in September 2016, 13 cars derailed here in Eugene, including one containing highly flammable liquefied petroleum gas. And whereas hauling crude oil into Oregon involves traversing some of the most challenging mountain passes, areas laced with earthquake faults, and numerous unsafe old steel and timber bridges over main waterways that supply drinking water to communities, greatly increasing the probability of serious accidents and grave consequences to Oregonians. And whereas crude oil is being transported in significant volumes across the U.S. and Canada in structurally deficient rail cars, including rail cars designated as DOT 111 rail tank cars originally designed to haul corn syrup. DOT promulgated updated safety specifications for cars and transport regulation along rail lines, but the phase-in of these standards has been slow, haphazard, and severely undersupervised, so that many of these unsafe cars are still in use. And whereas federal regulations for shipping companies meant to improve rail safety for crude oil transport and to provide worst-case scenario emergency response plans will not be in place until 2018 or later. And whereas Eugene is not advised of the times and number of cars loaded with oil moving through the city, and the rail carriers are not required to notify state officials unless more than 1 million gallons of oil is being transported on a single train, although devastating, accidents have occurred with much lesser volumes. And whereas increased rail traffic in Oregon from crude oil will lead to an increase in diesel emissions and particulate matter in communities along rail lines, and exposure to such emissions can cause serious health hazards, especially in children. And whereas historically, when environmental accidents do occur, oil companies spend years in litigation over damages, a strategy to undercut payments to affected communities or deflect blame. And whereas other states and communities have also recognized the risk of crude oil transport by rail and have called for comprehensive reviews of safety procedures and emergency response preparedness, limitations on increases in capacity in transport, and or have passed resolutions in opposition to transporting crude by rail.
Well timed.
Thank you.
Yes. Joan. And following her is Catherine Hunt.
Joan Cleban, Ward 1. From 1991 to 2014, I owned and operated a retail business at 515 High Street, adjacent to the UP rail tracks. Continuing, whereas opposing crude oil by rail through Eugene community would align Eugene's climate recovery ordinance, the cumulative impacts of the crude oil traffic through Eugene and other parts of Oregon, in addition to the cumulative upstream and downstream greenhouse gas impacts of these fossil fuels, must be analyzed prior to the transport of any of those hazardous materials through our communities. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Eugene City Council opposes using existing Union Pacific rail lines to transport hazardous crude oil through Eugene and other populated areas in Willamette Valley and along the Oregon waterways, and resolve to 1, file comments opposing any Oregon Department of Eugene Quality DEQ documents and draft permits approvals, such as air permit, zoning changes for transport of crude as they occur, including the comments a statement that any DEQ analysis by a lead agency must fully account for the direct, indirect, and cumulative impacts associated with proposals for crude oil transport and export. 2, to submit a copy of this resolution to Governor Brown, whereby the City of Eugene requests that Governor Brown, A, take executive action similar to New York Governor Cuomo's executive order directing state agencies to conduct a comprehensive review of safety procedures and emergency response preparedness related to shipments of volatile crude oil, and B, order a cumulative impact analysis similar to the Washington Department of Ecology for coal mining, transport, and burning. 3, address impacts to public health, public safety, property, air quality, and surface and groundwater caused by crude oil through Eugene by actively enforcing applicable local public health, public safety, building, electrical, nuisance, and fire codes by actively enforcing applicable federal environmental statutes that are delegated to Eugene. Number 4, submit a letter to rail carriers involving in the transport of crude oil through Eugene and the Willamette Valley, requesting that these rail carriers, A, make public any plans for new or expanded rail facilities or significant rail traffic volume increases. B, provide representatives to meet periodically with local citizen groups and local government officials. C, update UP's emergency response plan with the City of Eugene to account for the transport of crude oil and the potential emergencies that could occur with accidents involving these hazardous materials. And D, conduct environmental monitoring in Eugene, including but not limited to groundwater and air monitoring, and submit monitoring and testing information to local government entities on a monthly basis for 10 years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Catherine Hunt is next, followed by Jim New.
Good evening. My name is Catherine Hunt. I live on Hanson Lane, which is part of Lane County, though Eugene is my home. Number 5, submit a copy of this resolution to the Oregon Public Utilities Commission, whereby the City of Eugene seeks assurances that the OPUC Railroad Safety Program is adequately implemented in Eugene and other areas that may receive crude by rail shipments, including investigation, inspection, infrastructure improvement, detection and mitigation risks, or any other procedures or mechanisms available to the Oregon Public Utilities Commission. And 6, send a copy of this resolution to the Oregon Department of Transportation, which is developing regulations for federal rail safety of shipment of fossil fuels by rail in DOT 111 rail cars. And 7, alert and communicate with other cities along the transportation route Eugene's resolution opposing crude oil by rail and support their efforts to take similar action. And number 8, work through the Oregon League of Cities, Oregon Association of Counties, and other relevant organizations to explain Eugene's opposition to crude oil trains. And number 9, alert Eugene's state legislative representatives and our lobbyists in Salem to this resolution opposing crude oil trains and enlist their help in addressing the many safety concerns raised herein. And number 10, City of Eugene will lobby federal senators and representatives to enlist their help to engage the appropriate regulatory authorities at the federal level. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim New is next, followed by Dylan Thompson.
Jim New, I live in Ward 7, representing 350 Eugene. In closing, adopting a resolution opposing crude oil by rail aligns with the City of Eugene's vision and laws, the Climate Recovery Ordinance, and the Community Climate and Energy Action Plan. This resolution symbolically takes a stand against the fossil fuel industry's transportation of hazardous materials through the city's residential and business districts. Not only is this a public health and safety issue when it comes to explosions of volatile liquids being transported in deficient rail cars, a threat of oil spills and polluting the air and drinking water, but it is an environmental and social injustice to the residents of this community. Recently, this council adopted a resolution in support of the Standing Rock Sioux North Dakota Access Pipeline Resistance. Currently, Council Member Zelenka, at the request of the mayor and council, is forming a mayor ad hoc committee to review the Community Climate Energy Action Plan to establish public support and implementation of the benchmarks of the CAAP. We thank you for these efforts. Now, more than ever, local groups and cities must work together to push for climate progress where the federal government falls short. The committed volunteer authors and supporters of this resolution request the council adopt this resolution in a timely manner and keep the community informed as to the progress of the 10 action items the document addresses in communicating with other cities, state, and federal representatives. 350 Eugene, Beyond Toxics, and Many Rivers chapter of the Oregon Sierra Club welcome city comments, questions, and feedback, and we thank the mayor and council for your attention and consideration in adopting this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Dylan Thompson is next, followed by Ty Pruce Zimmerman.
Good evening, Council. My name is Dylan Thompson. I live in Ward 8. I wanted to share something that I read a couple days ago about wolves in Texas, a little ways away from here, but I had no idea. These were accounts from settlers, early settlers who arrived in Texas and observed the wolf populations there. And today they roam in about packs of 3 to 6, but the packs back then were 300 to 400. And these packs every year would congregate in certain areas, and there would be upwards of 1,000 wolves in one area, according to these accounts that I read. And that reading that reminded me of our backyards where the salmon run, and the accounts from people that I've read about those indicate that you could hear the salmon runs coming before you could see them. They were so vast, and they extended from bank to bank. And all this is to say that the resolution to stop these oil trains and fossil fuels and the Children's Trust and the Climate Recovery Ordinance is about much more than climate. It's about a challenge to a culture that has, and an economic system that has devoured the lives and futures of unfathomable numbers of non-human kin that we share this planet with, not to mention the futures of our own species. It was up in the air whether or not I was going to come talk to you, as it always is, because I don't have a lot of trust in state apparatus. It's been too slow. It's been it served interests of capital more than it has of planet. But there is something to be said for precedent, and I think you all have an opportunity here to not only pass a resolution like the one to stop the oil trains and push forward the Climate Recovery Ordinance, but do so in as aggressive a way as you can. Because while I think that all of these things kind of amount to a pebble trying to stop an ocean wave, I think, again, there's something to be said for precedent. And then I want to speak to the citizenry that it's up to us to be the teeth of these things. And if they fail, then it's up to us to take matters into our own hands. And I wanted a matter of public record that I would never come out against anybody who takes matters into their own hands to stop fossil fuel, anything in our city and our county. Thank you.
Ty Pruce Zimmerman is next, followed by Samantha Krupp.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I live in Ward 6, and my wife teaches middle school here in Eugene. So since the presidential election, she's had many students coming to her afraid of what might happen next. And in particular, her Latino students are coming to her afraid that they or their family members might be deported. So in that vein, first I want to thank you for the resolution you passed at the last meeting, which offered a beautiful message of inclusivity and represented everything I believe Eugene is, can, and should be. But I also don't think it was enough. It was ultimately just words, and I think we need to protect our community with the force of law. Before she taught here, my wife started her teaching career in rural Klamath County. And she had 3 students, sisters, wonderful young ladies who were being raised by a single mother because their father had been deported. And so that family had to sit down and make a decision no family should have to make of, do we follow dad back to Mexico or do we stay here and pursue a future? Ultimately, they decided the future was worth pursuing as long as all 3 of the young ladies become doctors, and they work towards that goal. 3 more of her students were, in one single night, 3 students who had been born here in the United States, left homeless, alone, and effectively orphaned when their immigrant parents were deported. These are the realities of the world we already live in, even without any potential increase from a new administration. So I think it's important that we recall that these aren't hypothetical fears. Deportation is a real and present threat, and we need to protect those in our community with the actual force of law. We need to make ourselves a sanctuary city by ordinance, and it needs to be as strong of a legal ordinance as we can possibly make it. I know that this is being worked on. The Human Rights Commission has a subcommittee working on this with community leaders, and it will take time to get the legal aspects correct, but I want to, in the meantime, underscore the importance of keeping this in the forefront of your minds, and I urge each of you to actively support and shepherd this ordinance along and make sure that it is as strong as it can possibly be. Ultimately, we need to be able to look our frightened children in the eyes and tell them honestly and with conviction that they truly will be safe. Thank you.
Next up is Samantha Kropp, and don't forget to introduce yourself, even though I've said your name.
Hello.
After her is Lori Powell.
My name is Samantha Kropp. I'm a member of Board 8. I'm also a high school teacher, and that's predominantly why I'm here tonight. I actually, believe it or not, I'm not a high school teacher for the money. I believe that students actually have an amazing voice, and I think that they are an integral part of our political system. I believe that they are the change makers that we really are relying on as a society today. And unfortunately, I think that their voice really doesn't get heard as often as we'd like it to, because it's late and this is kind of an intimidating place to speak, and a lot of times they don't actually know how our political system works. And so I think sometimes it's important that I voice their concerns and the concerns that I'm hearing in my classroom, and that I can bring those concerns here to you all and talk to you about them. And so as a high school teacher, I spend a lot of time talking to my students about the concerns that they have in the world and the changes that they want to see. And it's really important for me that they are able to express the concerns that they're feeling every single day. And again, kind of to reiterate what's been said, since the election, I've been experiencing and seeing a huge lack of faith in our federal government. And I think that a lot of us are feeling that way, that our federal government really, especially in terms of climate change, is not going to be a reliable source of preventing a future that is catastrophic. And so for me, I really believe in local government. I've been a community organizer since I was in high school. I've been an activist since I was in high school, and I really believe in the power of communities to create change. But I do know that sometimes it really needs to start from our local governments and our local community organizers. And I think that I'm really proud of our community for doing some of the things that we've done. I'm proud of the ordinance, the climate change ordinance that we've passed, and I'm proud that people are here presenting this resolution on oil trains. That's phenomenal. And I also just want to say that my high schoolers are still not buying it. And no matter how much I tell them that there is hope and that we can do something, they're not buying it because they're not seeing actions. They're seeing a lot of words on paper. They're seeing a lot of legalese. And they're not seeing anything that's actually materially changing. And I have to hand it to them that I think that they're right. And I too want to see some material change. I think that it's one thing, like someone said before, it's one thing to say that we're going to make some changes and to say that we want to prevent climate change from happening and to say that we have climate goals, and it's another thing to do something to actually enact those goals. And I think that this resolution about the oil trains is one way to actually do something, but I think that there's numerous other ways that we need to be considering, and we need to be looking at locally what the problem is and identifying that problem and materially doing something about it. So I support you in everything that you've done. I really appreciate that, and I really hope that we can actually move forward in achieving these goals. Thank you.
Thank you. Lori Powell is next, followed by Ian Curtis.
Good evening, Mayor, councilors, Manager Ruiz. My name is Lori Powell. I live in Ward 1, and I'm here with 350 Eugene. So what do the Climate Recovery Ordinance, No Crude by Rail Resolution, Oregon's No LNG Coalition, the Standing Rock Water Protectors, the Shut It Down Today Tar Sands Pipe Valve Turners and Documentarians, and our Children's Trust, state and federal cases against the fossil fuel industry, what do they all have in common? Moral standing in the fight to keep fossil fuels in the ground and to rapidly and justly transition to renewable energy sources in order to preserve this precious home of ours. We look forward to carrying on this fight with the council and the city manager's office into the next year through specific policy-related actions, including keeping the triple bottom line of environmental, equity, and economic impacts front of mind with all council-related decisions, including greenhouse gas assessments for the urban growth boundary and transportation systems planning. And to our outgoing representatives, thank you, Councilor Brown, for your quality of thought and dedication to our community, particularly with environmental concerns, and to Mayor Piercy for showing up, for always showing up and being so passionate speaking out about climate change. And for inspiration to continue our collective fight, let us turn to the literary arts for a moment. I'd like to read a poem by Wendell Berry, one that's been popping up all over social media of late for its healing spirit. It's called The Peace of Wild Things. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world, and I'm free. Thank you.
Ian Curtis is next, followed by Charmaine Rigg.
Good evening, City Council, Mayor Piercy. I'm Ian Curtis, and I'm a sophomore at South Eugene High School and a member of the EG 350 Club there. I live in Ward 2. When I last spoke, it was about the LTD, and I didn't really get the chance to finish my thought. I was going to mention that having a great bus station isn't just a transportation issue, but it's also an environmental one. It makes our downtown a transit hub, and it makes the center, our downtown, the center of a growing network of bus lines that not only brings our community together, but also boosts profit to local businesses downtown. Well, that was just the rest of what I was going to say last time. More importantly, 2 weeks ago, I also heard how very many people are speaking of what they're afraid of the next years and the next 4 years hold. People have spoke to me about how they're afraid of the racist attitudes Trump brings with him. But I noticed that not one person was afraid of the future of climate under a Trump administration. Climate change remains such a background issue in politics, even No, because voters whose lives haven't started yet are left unconsidered. Because why pander to a vote? Why pander to a group who can't even vote yet? But as city councilors, you need to reestablish local government as a force to be reckoned with, especially with a president who dismisses climate change as just a Chinese hoax. What these climate activists today have came out in force for has revealed itself as an incomplete effort of our city's behalf to address climate change. These people have given you, in short, a very nice to-do list for the coming weeks and months. All we hope is that you can make progress on this issue that can't wait and help progress on ensuring future generations a healthy climate. Even in the Standing Rock protests in South Dakota, things have become more violent, with protesters recently being sprayed with water cannons in 27-degree weather, among other hideous acts. We have to enact change, starting on the local level, to get the ball rolling on this issue very quickly. Again, I thank you for your hard work and dedication on this issue, but there is still so much left on the table to be accomplished. Thank you for this chance to speak, and good night.
Thank you. Charmaine, followed by Hillary Johnson.
I was going to talk about the tax exemption. Pardon me?
Introduce yourself.
Oh, Charmaine Reg. But you already decided that.
Yes.
But I'll tell you what, next time around, think about the people who aren't the developers and who aren't building the affordable housing, just the average property taxpayer. Because as I had told the mayor previously last year, when I went to pay my property tax, there was a woman there about 80 years old, and she was having a heck of a time paying the tax and wanted to try to work something out. She had said how her husband had to get new hearing aids. He started 2 new medications. So there's a lot of people out there who are struggling. They may be retired, may be widows, may have lost hours in their jobs, and we need a break too. So I'd like you to think about that. The second thing is, I hope you don't take a stand concerning a sanctuary city, simply because if the federal funding is pulled, that could be catastrophic. And you compound that with the PERS obligation that's coming up in the next budget, and it would be a disaster. If you lose federal funding and you're dealing with PERS, I don't see how you can even operate a city. And I would like to thank you for how pretty Parks Blocks looks now, and is so enjoyable to go there. And I also thank the mayor for letting me follow her around all year from grocery store to grocery store to get my 2 cents worth in. Yeah. And I guess that's about it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Hillary Johnson is next, followed by Trix.
Hello, my name is Hillary Johnson. I live in Ward 3. I'm here this evening on behalf of St. Vincent de Paul of Lane County. And first, I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak to you all this evening. I appreciate that. I understand you already passed it, but I came down, so I might as well say. And I wanted to see what all the costumes were about, so that was great. So thank you for that. It was fun. So I just wanted to, as you know, we're in the process of buying the church at 3350 Willamette Street to convert into a homeless youth house. And we are trying to provide these units rent-free for homeless high school students, 14 students and 1 resident manager. And everything that you do and have done is very helpful to that project and to this group of people that is very underserved in this community. And needs our help, as we saw in the Register Guard and statewide. It's a growing population. So thank you very much for passing that earlier today. And again, on behalf of St. Vincent de Paul of Lane County, we really appreciate all your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Rick, you're up. Followed by Alfredo Gormazano.
And go. Wow, I've been promoted from Eugene Drix to Drix Europe. That's kind of cool. Yes, my name is Drix, and I live high above High Street. I like to say that. I'm in an attic. But high doesn't always mean what it always meant anymore. It just means a better vantage point, a way to view things that is wider in scope, which is probably why I'm up there, because I do sit and do a lot of pondering. And I think of all of you, and that's why I'm going to do something different. Oh, God, what's he going to do now? I'm going to stand up here so I have a different point of view. This is all it takes, and once again, most of my suggestions that I come here cost nothing. Zero is a price, and we just have to remember to put that in the budget. There's a lot of solutions that are presented to us all the time, and we don't really see how I'm doing this. I'm kind of turning here. That's Eugene. That's you and you. And in our new city council building, city hall, just think of that so we can have a mic that points to all of us. Because I don't have the answers, but you do, Eugene. For example, some things that have always bothered me, and I've postulated on them, and I've come to the solution that we have to rethink everything, because everything you know is wrong. So rethink all the thoughts of homeless. What the hell does homeless mean? I mean, it's a weird word. It was thrown at us. Let's think of a better word. First came up with no ads. Those were people who didn't have an address, so they were no address, but they weren't without it. A lot of people don't have purpose. What happened to all of us where we lost purpose? You wake up. And you guys, you, our city council and mayor, have always been so human with making sure everybody has a place to be and a thing to do. And it's not like you have to think of it, but you do, all of us. And it was like speaking before, these words and concepts repeat, but it's going to take kids to have that pure viewpoint. It's going to take seniors who spent their whole, see all my gray hair? You guys remember when I used to look like Jerry Garcia or even shorter? And all this is wisdom. The ones that stay in are. The ones that come out, I'm weaving a wig that'll just match. You won't know. But it's the fact that it's going to take all of us to count. And when you think of everyone as being yourself, it does a bunch of things. It's unique, it's different, and, well, if everyone is yourself, then we've gotten rid of impartiality, bigotry, sexism. All those are gone because it's yourself. Even the people overseas and under the seas. So to kids and the seniors and all in between, contact these people with your new ideas, and as that flows, we'll grow. And thank you for all that got me here. You bet.
Alfredo Gomezano. And then after that is Jody Wiktorowski.
Good evening, my favorite city council in the world. At this very moment in an alternate universe, I am in Kona, Hawaii, swimming. I changed my flight so I could be here because I felt there was just still too much that I was dealing with here and involved with that needed me to be here. I needed to be here for. One of the things is I was part of the organizing committee that created the Standing Rock march and rally that we had a couple of weeks ago. I also served on that march as one of the police liaisons. And I had a wonderful time working with our police department. I was so impressed. Last time I was here, I complained back about the days when I was a Vietnam War protester and the attitudes against us that we were traitors and horrible, and they just couldn't wait to beat us over the head. And now, when I worked with the Eugene police this time, I was blown away at how much support I actually felt from them and how we could actually work together to keep the peace. At one point, there were about 100 people inside a bank, and I didn't know it at the time, but I walked up to the police car and said, how are things going? Do you need anything? Yeah, the bank manager just called and said there's 25 people in there. We need to get them out, otherwise we're going to go and arrest. Let me see what I can do. I go in, there's 100 people. I didn't know what to do, but I figured it out. I just grabbed a megaphone, said, okay, we're moving on to the next location. To my surprise, everyone started filing out of the bank. The police didn't have to come in and make any arrests. It was amazing. I looked at that megaphone and said, this is power. So, yes, and Lieutenant Reynolds was who I was working with the most, and I want to heap a lot of praise upon him right at this moment. At the same time, you know, we still have things to work with, and I heard another story recently about someone who'd called the police because their neighbors sounded like they might have been throwing each other against the wall. This guy looked Hispanic. He went outside. He called the police because he didn't feel safe. He had his gun with him. So when the police showed up, instead of saying, drop your gun and asking questions, he was shot about 5 times. Somehow he survived this. So what we need to do is work a little more on those kind of situations, you know, making sure every police officer in Eugene knows how to say, drop your gun or put your gun down, both in English and in Spanish. This is very, very important because this didn't have to happen. There was no need. He was the one that called the police. And, you know, before it was mentioned, we need more police because of the workload is too strong, too much. Well, yes, a lesser workload for people will create less mistakes, less pressure, so things like that won't happen.
Thank you.
Don't be afraid of losing federal funding. We need to keep our freedoms.
Jody Wiktorowski is next.
Hi, thanks. Jody Wiktorowski. Good evening. I'm a little bit nauseous. I'm not a public speaker, so I'm going to read this. Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to speak to you tonight. As you're likely aware, the Human Rights Commission's November meeting was flooded with concerned community members who asked for support in getting Eugene established as a sanctuary city. I'm here to put that issue before you tonight and to ask that an ordinance to that end be passed and implemented as soon as possible. Deep breath. The recent presidential election and its accompanying rhetoric generate tremendous fear and loss of safety for many, many marginalized people and groups. And I call on you to take a stand to protect those marginalized groups that are within our community. Little background on myself. My same-sex partner and I moved to Eugene in 2004. Felt like home immediately. Very comfortable, very accepting. We chose Eugene because we wanted to feel safe and accepted. Our hopes have been thankfully realized here. Now we're a little bit worried about the future. We were married right across the street on the lawn in 2014. And we are the joint adoptive parents of 2 children who were living in foster care. I own a business here in town, and we are actively engaged in the community. Many people who live and work here but lack documentation now live in a climate of fear, something my wife and I know and understand and will not stand for, not for anyone. Please prioritize the safety of all community members and commit to making our city a sanctuary city.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll close the public forum. Thank everyone for being here. Thank you for the very nice presentation, and appreciate it very much. Want to tell you that, is she still here? We came to speak for high school students? She's gone? Okay, then I won't say that. All right, anybody else? Mike and then Chris. Excuse me, Councilor Clark and then Councilor Pryor. And then Councilor Evans.
And Councilor Taylor, I think.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you all for coming. Mr. Manager, I heard a couple of things tonight that are timely with some thoughts I've been having reading the paper lately and with police commission issues and things around our police department that have made me think about this. So I guess I just want to bring it up for discussion, and maybe council will talk about it at some future point. I don't think it needs a work session. But when Councilor Zelenka and I first started on council, there was a report that was hired by an outside third party that was completed, and it was the third such report in, I don't know, 10, 15 years that was done. But that, about 10 years ago, was the last time that there was a professional third party who surveyed the community about the level and type of policing that they expected, and translated that into how many police officers and of what type does that mean we ought to have. Now, I'm fully cognizant of the chief's ability to tell us that based on his knowledge and his staff's ability to know what our community needs. But when I hear a lot of comments about the expectations of our community of what kind of policing and at what level, and response times and all that sort of thing, I wonder if it isn't time again for us to kind of take the temperature of our community around what their expectations of the police department are, so that we make sure we're staffed appropriately. And that's my comment. Thanks.
Councilor Pryor.
Thank you. I wanted to thank everybody who came tonight to speak on all of the subjects. To those who came about the Human Rights Commission and the efforts to create a sanctuary city, I'm the council's representative to the Human Rights Commission. I was at the November meeting and saw how full the House was, and heard very palpably the degree of anxiety and concern that people have about the potential for problems with their immigration status or something to that effect. In that meeting, there were requests for both a resolution and for an ordinance, and it came up in the meeting that there is already in place and state law, an ordinance that pretty much does what the people in the room were asking. And so the Human Rights Commission has created a subcommittee, a task force, that is looking at the state law that currently is in place, protecting people in the state of Oregon from these kinds of immigration concerns, and to see if an ordinance were to be created in our area in Eugene, what would need to be in that ordinance to make it different from what is already protected at the state level, and why we would need that ordinance. So that is being studied. We already have protections at the state level. That's a great thing that the entire state has put that into place. But we also want to see that if we need an ordinance at the local level, what differences that ordinance might represent, and if it's even needed. But over and beyond that, I did agree that it was important that the Eugene City Council consider a resolution, which is a much easier and much quicker process for us to utilize to make sure that every single person, both here and in other places, is very, very clear of the city of Eugene's position with regard to sanctuary city. So I think that effort will be moving straight ahead, even as we continue to talk about how an ordinance might actually be put in effect, and if one is even needed. So resolution and ordinance, I think resolution is a good idea just to make clear what our intentions are, and then we will study whether or not we even need an ordinance when we consider the fact that in its thoughtfulness, the entire state of Oregon has put in place law that protects people.
Councilor Evans.
I think Councilor Taylor had her hand.
She's right after you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mayor. Again, echoing the same sentiments as Councilor Pryor, but I will give you a couple of pieces of context from a personal perspective. In the 90s, when I was coaching soccer at then Whitaker School, I had half of my team was Latino, and one day I would go and pick up kids and take them to games because their parents didn't have transportation or whatever. And one day I went to pick up kids to go to a soccer game, and half of my team didn't come to the door. And it was because INS had done a raid and swept through and taken their parents and put them on airplanes and sent them back to their country of origin. You know, these are the kinds of things that we don't want to have happen in our community, where kids are told, you know, lock the door, don't let anybody in, even if you know them, because, you know, they're scared. And you don't leave 9, 10, 12-year-olds in an apartment by themselves to raise their siblings, you know, while their parents are being deported. That's not okay. And by the same token, you know, as the gentleman came and addressed this earlier, there are a lot of kids in our schools that are really afraid. 18 months ago, my daughter comes home and says that she hated a certain political figure. And I said, you don't want to say that you hate. No. She said, my friends are afraid that they're going to be kicked out of the country. And this conversation has been going on for not weeks, not just after the election. This has been going on steady for 18 months plus. So whatever we can do as a city to reassure our children and our families that we're going to protect them to our utmost is something that we need to do. It's a moral obligation that we have to do, in my opinion. But I think that you know, we are, by state statute, we are a sanctuary state. But whatever we can do to underscore that locally, I think would be more than appropriate.
Councilor Taylor.
Thank you. And thanks to the people who wanted to let me speak. I want to thank everyone who came tonight. I thought this was really inspirational, as so frequently happens at our public forums. There is what has already been talked about is important. Yes, what councilors have already talked about, but there's nothing more important than saving the planet if human life is to continue. And we did pass the climate recovery ordinance, and people keep asking, what are you doing about it? And I would say not much that you can see. Passing this ordinance, which has been presented to us, and taking the actions that are suggested would be something really visible and something I think we should do as soon as possible. I think it's fine to talk about climate recovery and taking care of things, but especially the young people who've been coming to meetings say, what are you doing? And I've had parents say to me, my children or my child wants to know what the council is doing, and something that they can see. So I think if we do this, the things that you suggested, and it's a lot to do, if we start work on this, if we pass the ordinance and start work on that, it is obvious that we're trying to do something. Thank you.
Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, everyone, for coming. I agree with Councilor Taylor. It's been kind of inspirational. Very important things under discussion here. You know, we passed the coal train resolution, and I think we should do the oil train also. It's kind of the twin, the other evil twin that exists that should be addressed. It shows our intentions. It won't have the force of law, but it shows our intentions and can move things forward a little bit. And that's a good thing. As far as the sanctuary city, yes, I think we need to take more action. My understanding is the state regulations basically say that no state law enforcement official will be involved in immigration activities and deportations. It doesn't say anything about INS or federal. And so I think municipalities and states can pass laws that might be a little bit at odds with national policies. We've already done so. We have marijuana is legal in Oregon. It's still on the federal list. It's not. So that was in, opposition to a federal policy. And We haven't lost any funding, not yet anyway. So I think we need to pursue and be more specific about Eugene being a sanctuary city and not have parents taken away from children. Thank you.
So just a couple comments. One is that I think what I want to say is we are doing a number of things, and I think the city manager told us earlier tonight that will be showing up on our website soon to show you the work that we have been doing. But every time I say that, people take it that I mean, well, that's enough. And I don't mean that's enough. I mean it's some. And then you build on that, and you build on that, and you build on that. And that's the work that we all have ahead of us. And the thing that I appreciate so much about all of you is you want to raise the bar. You just want to raise the bar. I know as soon as you get this one done, you'll do another one, because I just know that's the way it's going to be. And we count on you for that. So that's the aspirations we have as a community. And I think it's what we think is our responsibility in this world and on this planet. So I understand that perfectly, and I'll be out there with you soon. So there you go. All right, we're going to move on. Next is a public hearing, an ordinance concerning erosion, very entertaining, erosion prevention and amending sections. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. And the proposed ordinance amends Chapter 6 of Eugene Code. An erosion and sediment control program is a requirement of the city's federal and state stormwater permits. The erosion ordinance has not been updated since its original adoption in 1996. Proposed changes to the erosion and sediment control ordinance are intended to address current stormwater permit requirements, address problematic unregulated construction sites, and reflect current industry practice. And the proposed changes were reviewed with stakeholders and the regulated community.
Do we have any? We have nobody who's come for the hearing, so we're going to close that hearing. Ask if there's any questions or comments from City Council. Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item. That's the work session on the Industrial Corridor Community Organization. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor, and I'll turn it over to Denny and Glenn, who will take us through a short presentation.
Good evening. Tonight we're seeking direction regarding future development within the ICCO area, which is the Industrial Corridor Community Organization. And this is an area in West Eugene. It's mostly outside the Eugene city limits, but within the urban growth boundary. And the area is mostly industrial. There's a map that's attached, which is attachment A in your packet. Currently, there are code provisions which make it difficult for property to be developed unless it is first annexed into the city, and an annexation can't occur unless the property is contiguous with the existing city limits. Several years ago, property outside the city limits could be annexed even if it wasn't contiguous to the city limits, but that was subject to approval by the Lane County Boundary Commission. But the legislature abolished the Boundary Commission, and there are now Eugene code provisions that make it difficult to develop within the ICCO area. Our planning staff have been tracking proposed development in this area. They currently deal with them kind of on a case-by-case basis. Some find solutions, some get stuck in a long, costly process, and some can't move forward at all. There are examples currently. The most recent one is the PacTech example, where expansion onto a parcel that wasn't contiguous to the city limits became problematic, and they shifted to a site in College Grove. In this case, that was development ready, barrier free. And this is really, in my estimation, because certainty and timeliness are very important. Today's economy moves very fast, so we're finding that certainty and timeliness is very critical in most cases. Just some context for the ICCO area. It's approximately 1,600 acres. 96% of that area is zoned heavy and light medium industrial. There are 458 tax lots in that area, only 73 of which have been annexed into the city. So approximately 80% of that area is not within the city limits. And despite the fact that much of the area is not within the city limits, it includes many of our region's kind of legacy businesses. It's a major manufacturing employment area for Eugene and for the region. And this really brings us to the policy question that we've asked you to consider this evening, which is, do you want to consider enabling a property within the ICCO boundary, outside the city limits but within the urban growth boundary, to obtain development permits and services by either annexing, if they're legally able to do so, or by signing a consent to annex in the future whenever the annexation is allowed under state law. And the primary reason we're asking you to consider this policy is really to help further advance our regional prosperity economic development plan. And if you recall, in previous work sessions, we've talked about our ambitious goal to create 20,000 net new jobs by 2020. Today, we've basically reestablished our pre-recession employment level. So we really haven't seen a whole lot of net new job growth. And as we've discussed in the past, we've lost about a third of our manufacturing jobs in this region during the recession. So many of the new jobs that have been created post-recession are not in the higher paying manufacturing sector. This ICCO area includes a large portion of our region's development, industrial land, and its proximity to the highway, to rail, to the airport make it really ripe for industrial expansion and industrial manufacturing development and new jobs. So today we're seeking direction, not a final decision, just direction as to whether or not you have an interest in staff drafting an ordinance and scheduling a public hearing as we've proposed in the motion.
Thank you. So I've got Councilor Evans, Clark, Pryor, Zelenka. Councilor Evans.
So I'm pretty familiar with this area since it's adjacent to my ward and I travel through it every day. Is there an official ICCO organization that is led by property owners in the area? Because I didn't get that in the AIS, that there were, actual bodies and people attached to this particular quote-unquote community organization, like you have Active Bethel Services or River Road.
Yes, it is a recognized neighborhood per the Eugene neighborhoods, yes.
But I mean, is it
It's active? Yes, it is active. Yes.
So you've got, like some of the businesses on Airport Road, they're meeting on a regular basis with each other and,
Yes, they are active members, and it's mostly industrial, manufacturing property owners.
And are they supportive of this action?
We believe so, yes, because right now there's some constraints, really. There's a lot of property that could be developed, but if it's not contiguous, there's some pretty significant barriers for them moving forward. So even for companies or property owners that are expanding, they from time to time run into problems as well. So I think they would be very supportive.
And so do they have regular meetings? Are they meeting on a regular basis, or is this just kind of ad hoc, catch as catch can?
Not familiar with the regularity of their meetings, but they are formally recognized and they're active as far as I know.
My experience is they meet as issues present themselves as opposed to every third Thursday of the month kind of a meeting, and so they'll be active. I think in this case they'll be supportive of this particular effort because they'll know they'll still have to annex when they're eligible. That's irrevocable, but it, as Danny mentioned, it removes barriers to them for redeveloping the manufacturing base that we're hoping to gain.
Councilor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. First, the short answer, yes, please, yesterday. And then 3 or 4 other things. Number one, you identified the important piece, in my opinion, of speed. And so I would suggest that, yes, once we pass this, it's a one-dimensional solution to the current existing problem or the one identified with the PACTEC situation. There may be others. So I guess my first question is, you certainly know, I would think, or at least you can know, how many businesses are currently exist in the triangle? Do you happen to know that offhand?
I'm not sure the number of businesses, but as I mentioned, there's 400 plus different parcels within the area.
That'll do. So there's an identifiable number, and I would say that you could probably know the characteristics that are presented with regard to what might or might not develop in the future with any manner of industrial development or redevelopment that takes place in those areas. So there may be other issues that present themselves that may be challenging in that process. And as we recognize that area as important for manufacturing, maybe a secondary and tertiary list of potential pieces of flexibility that may be necessary for you as circumstances arise, that we are instead of being reactionary, that we are, looking forward to doing in advance, so we're ready, so that speed is an issue. Number two, I would highly recommend I don't know how you would do it, but a better conversation with the county and with the commissioners on this issue. I will just suffice to say that in the run-up to how the PAC-TEC situation was dealt with, two commissioners came and sat with me in my office and visited about what they'd like to see happen. And I think they're conflicted about whether they should have their own department and allow their own permitting at the county level, or whether or not we should keep the kind of 190 stuff in place or not. So I think better communication with the county and resolution about what they expect to do in the future will help everybody, make it clearer. And I think that maybe there might even be opportunities to be proactive here by looking at ways to either increase speed of how we assist folks who may want to move into the future with what they're doing, and or be as anticipatory as we can of what we may see based on not only what we think will happen, but what we want to happen out there. So I guess that's my thoughts on it.
Councilor Pryor.
Mayor,
yes.
If I can address something that Councilor Clark mentioned in terms of the county, because of the nature of where this property is located, which is outside city limits inside the UGB, the conversation necessarily will involve the county and the commissioners. We didn't want to approach the county about this until we asked you whether you were interested in pursuing this policy. If you indicate you are, then we will be having conversations with the county to make sure that they're also interested in pursuing this policy.
Okay, thanks.
Councilor Pryor.
Yeah, I think I was going to mention something to that effect, and also ultimately this will become a part of Eugene, so it's important that we come up with a clear policy about what we want to do in this area, and also I think to reach out to the recognized group and at least touch base with them and talk with them. I think that's certainly a valuable thing to do. I think the PAC-TEC issue raised a significant gap in our economic development effort. I mean, identifying available acreage isn't the end of the economic development discussion. It's simply one part of it. The land has to be available, ready to be developed, have infrastructure put in place, and then not have barriers, either code or ordinance or planning, that keep it from being developable. And the fact that they wanted a piece, tried to get a piece, worked to get a piece, and then couldn't manage to make it work because we had created a situation that was almost like a catch-22. They said, hey, forget it, I'm going to go somewhere else. There's no reason why we should have that happen again. And removing the catch-22, I think, is a relatively easy thing to do. So the recommendations you're making, I think, are reasonable. They're for this specific area, which to me is an area that we absolutely have identified property. It's already zoned for that use. It fits into all of the planning, including Envision Eugene, that we've been working on. And I don't want to say it's by accident, but it's just by a combination of circumstances that we didn't really intend. This has come into place, and we can fix it. And I think this looks like a relatively simple and elegant fix, and we should move ahead.
Councilor Zelenka.
So I understand that this allows development of a parcel, even though it's not annexed into the city, even though it's non-contiguous, meaning it's not connected to another parcel that is in the city limits. and allows those to be developed. So would the development be allowed and could occur without connection to the sewer and stormwater system?
So the development would still have to connect to the sanitary sewer system because they're not going to be able to get a septic permit. And so you need sanitary sewer. The stormwater, most of the ICCO area actually does not drain into the city's stormwater system. It drains out toward the Junction City Water Control District. And so it wouldn't be part of our stormwater system anyway. As part of the Envision Eugene conversation, at some point there will be some conversations about coordinating with the Junction City Water Control District to figure out in those areas what makes most sense for stormwater. But at the moment, they don't drain into, just the water flow doesn't drain into Eugene, it drains out toward Junction City.
So is that the only place in the city where that's true? Or they wouldn't be in our storm watershed?
I'm not sure.
Or would they still be subject to the stormwater fee?
I believe that the ordinance, the code provisions on stormwater provide an exemption for people who don't actually use our stormwater system. So if, I know there are some exemptions, it's been just too long since I've reviewed the details, but there are exemptions. So the council has already considered if somebody is not actually using the stormwater system, do they pay the stormwater fee? And I think what you said is no, they don't.
And so in the case where a parcel is, say, 4 properties removed from being contiguous with the city boundary, how do you provide urban services, sanitary sewer services to that property, going through all the way through those other properties or on a right-of-way to get to that parcel?
Right. So in many places in the ICCO area, there are already sanitary sewer trunk lines, and there are some of the collateral line, I think it's collateral collector lines down some of the other streets. So the sanitary sewer is going to run down the streets. It's not going to run through properties. If a property is unable to connect because they don't actually have sanitary sewer service available, either they're going to have to be willing to extend to where they can get to it, or they will need to wait to develop until somebody else has extended that sewer. So sanitary sewer service is still going to be a prerequisite. What this policy change is intended to do is to say if those services are available, or if they're willing to pay to make those services are available, should somebody be able to develop even though they're 4 properties away from the city limits, whereas they would be able to develop if they were adjacent to the city limits.
And just to be clear now, they would have to wait for those other 3 properties to be annexed before they could annex and therefore get a development permit.
Correct. They have right now under our code, they would have to be contiguous in order to get a development permit because they would have to annex.
Right. The other 2 urban services are fire and police. How does that work here?
Because you can weigh in too, but for example, with police, because if they're not actually annexed in,
they're not in the city.
They're not actually in the city. And fire in any different areas up there is a little bit convoluted because there's some other districts, fire districts anyhow. And so I don't know necessarily any specific property up in that area, but it's the same principle. If you're actually a part of the city jurisdiction, we provide service. If you aren't, even if we allow you to develop, we're not providing the other services to you.
So they don't pay property tax, they don't get police and fire protection.
Right.
And what does irrevocable consent to annex authorizing the city to annex property whenever the annexation is authorized by state law? That's kind of 2 parts. What does the irrevocable consent mean, and what are the circumstances where it would, so this becomes basically automatic when it's authorized by state law?
Essentially, yes. It means that the council would have the ability to annex whenever they became contiguous. So I developed today by signing the consent to annex. I can't change my mind. If I sell the property to somebody else, they can't change it. That's what the irrevocable means. It's once it's signed, then it actually becomes part of the chain of title. And so any future property owner will know that they will have to annex once they're contiguous, or it's possible that state law will change back to the way it was, I think it was about 10 years ago, when it was possible to have non-contiguous annexations. And that's why we have the Swiss cheese of what's annexed and what's not out in the River Road, Santa Clara, ICCO areas, is because 10 years ago, there were non-contiguous annexations. So irrevocable just means once signed, it's there, and as soon as they are legally able to be annexed, the council can decide to annex them. And
so
it's automatic.
Once they're annexed, then they have to do everything that everybody else does within the city, which is they have to pay the Eugene property tax and the school district taxes. Now, school districts, probably not the same thing, but for the city of Eugene, they have to
They're part of the city of Eugene like every other piece of property.
taxes, which is why some people don't want to be annexed, because it increases their taxes, because then they become part of the city. But they can use the library. Okay, thanks.
Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. The city attorney's answers to Councilor Zelenka's questions answered my questions. They're very similar to Councilor Zelenka's. Thank you.
We're going to have Councilor Evans put the motion out.
I move to direct the city manager to develop a proposed ordinance and schedule a public hearing on an ordinance to enable someone who owns property within the industrial corridor community organization boundary and outside the city limits, but inside the UGB, to obtain necessary permits and services by either A, annexing to the city if legally able to do so, or B, signing an irrevocable consent to annex authorizing the city to annex the property whenever the annexation is authorized by state law. The draft ordinance shall provide that the consent to annex shall allow the property to be subject to whatever conditions and standards exist at the time that the property is annexed.
Second.
Seconded. Councilor Clark.
Danny, I saw you take notes. With any of the other things that I mentioned, do you think it would be helpful in any way to offer an amendment on this with regard to in light of our previous work session discussion around council direction as opposed to one councilor's ideas or suggestions or questions? Would it be helpful to offer an amendment at this point to add some of those other things, or should that be done at a future point, or is it unnecessary to have ordinance language to address those other issues I raised?
I think we would draft an ordinance and you would still have an opportunity to amend that based on public input and so forth, assuming a public hearing. I don't know if Glenn has anything to add, but
I think some of the things that you raised earlier will be part of a longer conversation about, okay, so what are the other things, all of the other things that the council, the county, you guys together might want to do to deal with development standards and things like that out there. If you try to add that as part of this motion, it will delay how quickly we can get this done, because the conversation will just be broader.
I'm going to take it easy on my colleagues, not offer an amendment, and I'm not even going to ask for a work session poll on this, but I am going to ask you to consider the idea of coming back to us later with some of this stuff so that we're proactively ready for the expansion of our local economy and making it easier on folks to do that. Thanks.
Okay, then. Motion's on the table. All those in favor, please indicate. 4 and 3, 7 in favor and none in opposition. It passes. And with that, we are through with the business of the evening.